Oh, cool. So thanks everyone for joining us for this webinar. I think we're really excited for the upcoming workshop in Nairobi, and just wanted to take this time to allow the Open Capital team to introduce sort of the draft agenda and to get some feedback from your teams on how everything sounds, and if there are ways that we can try to accommodate some of the needs that you have as it relates to sustainable business models. So just looking at the participant list, we have representatives, a representative from WAHA, we have Sheikh Mbaye, we have Zachariah Jesman from Village Reach, we have Amr Khan from IRD, we have Nikki Bancroft, I think it's Bancroft, from IRH, and Risha, whose last name I'm forgetting, from Sesame. So 5 grantees on the call right now, and we should have 11 in person in Nairobi. So I think with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to the Open Capital team to run through the PowerPoint, which you should have all received in advance. And then I think we'll have time for Q&A towards the end. So, and Rodney, if you guys want to introduce yourselves as well, I know you've corresponded over email at this point, but I think that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Francis, and appreciate the chance to sit down and talk with everyone. As Francis mentioned, we're with Open Capital Advisors. I've got a couple of my colleagues here as well, Christine, Jeremy, and Andreas, who may jump in at some point as well and kind of provide some insight. We all work for a company called Open Capital Advisors, and we're based in Nairobi, and we're a financial and strategic consulting firm. But in addition to working in Kenya, we serve 11 other countries across East and Southern Africa, and really focusing on helping high potential businesses develop scalable models and figure out how to get that growth going, as well as how to finance growth. And I've worked on about 130 different projects over the last 6 years, including many in healthcare as well as the mobile health space. And really looking forward to spending some time with all of you thinking about the programs that you're working on and how to really scale those. And then the goal today is to spend some time giving you a little bit of insight into what we have planned for to get your input to make sure this is structured in the way that would be most helpful for you. So we'll spend some time going through the agenda briefly, and the goal for each of the sessions that we've structured is ultimately to help you refine your current strategies and to think about what long-term growth looks like for your program and for your businesses, and then how to scale and really think about what it will take to get there. And in order to do that, we want to have a blend of approaches, including one-on-one sessions with our get some tailored feedback specifically for your organization, as well as some peer input and discussion to be able to share all the lessons that exist and that everyone who's here has learned. And ultimately, that'll culminate in a presentation to an expert panel where you'll have the chance to discuss those strategies and really get some feedback from them as well. So wanted to spend some time going through each of those pieces today, and then ensuring that we get your input. Thanks in advance to all of you who completed the survey that we sent out. We've tried to incorporate your feedback from that here as well, but also would be good to get any additional thoughts that you have regarding the agenda that we put together. So from there, I'll jump into the agenda itself, and this is what we have planned for day one. And for the first day, this is really focusing on understanding where your organization is currently, and really thinking through some of the key issues that we've seen are integral to growth for any growing organization. So starting off, thinking through what is the current product or service that you provide, and really what is the value of it, and how does it stack up relative to other options that your users or your customers could be able to to access. And for us, that is a key question, because it really determines what your strategy is going forward and what the long-term path is. And we know people are at varying stages of this, and we really want to be able to get everyone to share where they are at that point. And the second session that we then have scheduled, and again, you've already seen some of this through the survey that we sent out. But the second session is thinking about your potential market and customers. So both the people that you are serving today, whether that is healthcare institutions or end users, mothers, children, etc. But really the people you're serving today, as well as the ones that you might be serving in the future that you don't currently work with today. But really understanding who they are, what are their needs, and thinking about what's the best way to reach them, and what are the strategies that you need to put in place to ensure that you're providing them with an effective solution. And break for lunch, and then from there in the afternoon on day one, spend a little time translating some of those topics into what does the long-term path look like? What does it take to scale this operation? What does it mean to be at scale? What are the drivers that are essential in order to get there? How do we put some of these structures in place to ensure that we can grow in a manageable way that doesn't get too big, but also allows us to reach our goals? And those are kind of the first 3 workshops that we'll focus on during the first day, and then culminate with a speaker at the end of the day, which will really seek to tie all those topics together. As we think about, in some cases, transitioning to a sustainable commercial model, all of those pieces that we've reviewed, what is your product and your value proposition? Who are the people that you're serving, and what are the things that they need to get from you? How do you build an organization that is sustainable and can last for the long run? All of those pieces are important to understand as you think about transitioning to a more sustainable model. So there we'll have a speaker come in, someone who has some experience in that space, and discuss that. And some of you have also mentioned potentially being interested in co-facilitating. So that may be another opportunity to have someone from the group share their insights in conjunction with the speaker. And that's one of the things we'll want to chat about a bit as well, and get some clarity as to who would like to do what in terms of co-facilitation. So that's what we're thinking for day one, again, based on the input that we received from the survey so far. I'll stop there just for a second to check if there's any questions or any thoughts across the group at the moment. All right, hearing none, I'll move on to day 2. And if at any point, you can't hear me, I know internet can come in and out sometimes, please do let me know. I'm happy to repeat and go back if necessary. So our focus for day 2 of the workshop will really be taking a lot of the things that we've discussed on the previous day around value proposition, customers, etc., and translating some of those into actionable documents that will really, we hope, give you the opportunity to really think about what do these things look like practically, and then working through some of the outputs that we've outlined in conjunction with Francis and his team. So we'll start off, discussing high-level financial assumptions. So really understanding, as we look to scale and to grow, where are the places that we would get revenue from or get income from? What are some of the key costs that we have to account for, whether that's structure, distribution, marketing, etc. And how do we make sure that we build a sustainable model, and what do those long-term financial prospects look like for the organization? And then we'll really take all of those pieces and spend some time working on those individually, as well as one-on-one advice. So our team has seen a host of different models across the different work that we've done, both in the healthcare space and in others. And what we'll plan for the afternoon, starting around 2 o'clock on the second day, is to spend around 30 minutes with each program going through pieces that we've discussed. So looking at, what does your model look like with revenue, costs, understanding your value proposition, and so on. And really, we want these sessions to be focused on what is most helpful for you. So it will not be a prescriptive thing where we come in and say, this is what you need to work on. But ideally, the hours that you'll spend some time working on will help you put some of these things on paper as well, depending on, of course, how much you already have developed. And then we'll spend around those 30 minutes really talking through some of those key issues and wherever we can provide the most guidance. During those sessions, what we expect is that for everyone who would not be in a one-on-one session with our team, you'd be spending some time working on those outputs, and we'll get to what exactly those will look like in a second. Those will primarily be, a presentation outlining your offering as well as, high-level financial assumptions and a short, more narrative summary. But we'll get to those in more detail. But we'd expect that you'd be spending some time working on those pieces while the other programs are going through the one-on-one sessions.
Can I just this is Amir. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Great.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering whether there are groups there coming to the meeting and the workshop that are going to be have more than one person representing the group. I ask because I feel the way this is structured, it would be hugely beneficial. I'm just thinking for myself, if a second person in my group were with me, so that we could sort of relate our personal, our own sort of project, if you will, experiences to the learning that are going on in there, because some of those are very contextual to to individual projects, and this is not about support that I'm asking. It's more about is there even an option for us to bring a second person if we thought it would be beneficial for us to have two people paired into some of these individual sessions, etc.
Yeah, Amr, I think this is something that we thought about up front, and we're open to you guys having more than one person. We're just only committing to support one person from each team. But if you have resources to bring someone else, then we'll cover their lunch and other things like that kind of come with attending the workshop.
And that might be very helpful. I just want to make sure by having that additional person, we don't make this very heavy for the moderators and for in terms of space, etc. Is that going to be okay?
Yep. Yeah, it's totally fine. So let us know if you do decide to bring someone else.
All right. Thanks very much. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
Yeah, no problem, Amir. Thanks for bringing that up. On our side, we're certainly happy to get more views in the room. So if you can bring more people, totally fine with us. Any other questions on anything we've covered so far?
Hi, Richa here. So I just wanted to check on these one-on-one sessions when we are talking about project-specific goals or organization-specific goals, and working along the same lines as we are working on the project. We could be very diverse in approach in what we do also. So just wanted a clarity on what are those goals that we look at when we do the one-on-one sessions. Yeah,
certainly we recognize that everyone has a different model and maybe at different places, and really that's why we wanted to make sure we built that in, where it's an opportunity to get specific tailored feedback that is just around your program and your project. And for us, really, we're open. We want it to be whatever is most effective for your project. So what would be most effective for you to discuss, and what would be most helpful for us to spend our time on discussing in the one-on-one session. We don't want to assume that one objective would be best for everyone across the board.
Cool, that helps. Thank you.
Great. So we'll jump on into day 3 then. But if there are any other questions as we go, please do let us know. And day 3 we see as the capstone to the workshop. We will start off with, as we've thought about what does growth look like, what are the key things for each project to focus on, and the topics we've discussed before. Then we want to talk about what type of financing do you need in order to scale and to really grow the project. So Andreas, who's also on the line, we'll spend some time talking about what we've seen in the market, both on commercial as well as the grant side, in terms of what funders are looking for, what are their expectations, and really how to go through the process. You know, we spend a lot of time with our clients, helping them raise capital and find the right strategic partners, not just from the capital side, but also for the people who are interested in invested in the specific client or the project that we're working on. And those are some of the pieces that Andreas will cover. Really, what are people expecting to see from you, and what are the things you should be considering as you're looking to bring in additional financing. And then we'll spend the afternoon then taking everything that we've worked on, the outputs we've developed, and really the core issues that we've talked through. And ideally at that point, we'll have helped refine your strategy and help think through, you know, what does the long-term growth plan look like for the project? And then we'll use that to present to an expert panel and then have a short Q&A session after that. And really our goal there is to help provide an avenue for you to articulate everything that we've talked about and what you see as the long-term plan project, and then also to receive some additional feedback and some questions that will help prod a bit more and help you think through that a little bit more. We'll build in some time, you know, in the morning in order to prepare for that, but then expect that most of the afternoon will be spent on these final presentations. And then that's really what the third day will look like, and caps up what the workshop as a whole will cover. And I think I'll just mention this to you, and then what we've built in is then some additional support time following the workshop, where our team will be happy to get on the phone for about an hour or so as you do additional work around these pieces, to then spend a little bit of time talking through any future updates you make over the next month or so. So that's the full picture of what the agenda itself will look like. And we wanted to give a bit more detail, speaking to your point earlier about the one-on-one sessions, about what each of these pieces will end up covering. And I know I've touched on this a little bit more, but didn't go into detail on the workshops. And what we'll really spend some time doing is ensuring that this is also a peer learning opportunity. I think everyone who is part of this program has gone through their own unique challenges, has seen different things in the markets that they work in and the people that they're trying to serve. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to share some of those lessons and provide different insights, based on your perspective. So we've structured each of the workshops, the value proposition, understanding your customer and your market, and we'll do some upfront sessions where we'll introduce the topic and discuss some of the things that our team has seen in the market, some of the learnings that we've had, and then also introduce some of the strategic questions that we think are important to ask for each of these different topics. Then we'll break up into small groups that will really give everyone the chance to kind of articulate what your organization has gone through in relation to this specific topic at hand, whether it's planning for growth, assessing your customers, etc. And then really spend some time getting some feedback from your peers in conjunction with our team who will be a part of each of these groups, and providing that cross-learning for all the participants. And then for each session, we'll come back together, share some of those key learnings across the group so everyone gets a chance to really hear what people have discussed within the small groups. So that's how we anticipate that the workshops themselves will proceed. And then touched on the one-on-one session a little bit earlier in response to the previous question, which is really spending some time addressing the core questions that are fundamental to any challenges you're facing now, as well as what you think the long-term plan will be. And then, as I mentioned on the previous slide, then have a strategy presentation at the end where you can really present these core issues and get some feedback from fellow participants, as well as the expert panel that we'll have joining for that day. So that's a bit more detail on what we expect each of the different sessions to look like. And as I mentioned before, in talking with Francis and his team, there are a couple different items that we thought would be helpful to spend time developing and ensure that we come out with. And so this is what we'd expect each participant to work on during the workshop and ultimately produce at the end. And we understand that people may be at different points and have, you know, different levels of this developed. And if you do have, you know, for example, a detailed financial model, we'd love for you to bring that, and that could certainly be something that we can talk through our team if that would be helpful. But as a quick overview, what we'd plan to work on would be, one, an initial strategy deck that will really lay out some points about your value proposition, understanding the market, and as well as what does the growth plan look like. And ideally, that is a useful exercise for your team, but as well as something that you could potentially then provide to funders who want to see some of these key questions answered. So, and we'll provide a template for that should be easy to fill out and based on what is unique to your organization. But again, if you have some of these shared, we'd love for you to bring that in and we can work on that. And then the second output would be key financial assumptions. So building a full-scale financial model is not necessarily doable in the time that we have. But what we'd love to do is spend time thinking through what are the key drivers of revenue, what are the key cost drivers for your project, and then those are laid out very clearly that if you do need to then translate that into financial model, that's easy to do, but then can also speak to those when, you know, potential investors or funders ask about some of these key questions. And then lastly, you know, the third output would be essentially a half-page summary, something that concisely and clearly communicates what your value proposition is, what is your long-term strategy, and really what is the problem you're trying to solve and for whom you're trying to solve it. And that's something that in our experience we found having something that can clearly distill, you know, the essence of what you're doing is useful to be able to provide to all external parties and especially funders and really help communicate that effectively. And going through that exercise can also help with clients, help them really get to the core of what they're doing and why. So again, we'd love to follow up either after this session or later, and you can let us know exactly if you have any of these types of materials prepared and what level you have that in. But are there, you know, any questions or thoughts in terms of what the outputs we'll be working towards in the workshop are?
Yeah, this is Amir. So thanks very much. This is very helpful to, you know, gather my thoughts around what to anticipate in the workshop. I was just wondering how restricted we might be with regards to the project that we sort of you know, bring to the table. In this instance, IWG in the past has funded a particular project, or the UN Foundation has funded a particular project that we continue to develop. But if we had, say, a second project that might be more developed along these financial, you know, revenue streams, and still is linked to the one that UNF funded, I mean, is that binding in any ways, or could we just choose the one that we think might give us the most learning in the context of the workshop?
Yeah, Amr, that's a good question.
Pretty on that.
Right. Yeah, Amr, that's a good question, and I think it's something that we've kind of not struggled with, but that we've kind of dealt with workshops in the past, right? Where, you know, you received funding for this project, you know, for you guys as round one grantees, that was a few years ago. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, we want to support you as an organization. And I think, you know, we want you to get as much as possible out of this workshop. So, you know, I think it's fine that if there's a different project that's similar or that you think will just kind of benefit from going through this process more, then that makes sense to me to really focus on that instead of just kind of making you do it on something that's, you know, just because you received funding for it a few years ago.
All right, thank you. That's very helpful. And I think I understand, like, if there were ways of doing that, it would be ideal.
Right.
But we have some flexibility in thinking this through. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Amir, as a follow-up to that, one thing I would ask is, you know, if you or anyone else ends up coming with a slightly different project to the workshop, we'd love to get, you know, a summary from you beforehand just what does the project entail? What are the key challenges you face? What do you expect it to look like in the future? As I think that'll help our team better prepare to talk through that with you during the workshop.
No, thank you. I think that makes sense. I just, because I brought the issue up, just very quick context. And we were funded several years ago by IWG to look at incentives in immunizations and scaling immunization programs to improve vaccine coverage and timeliness. And if you think about vaccinations and immunizations, those are really public health services, and building a revenue stream around just that sole public health service is very, very difficult. And so we've incorporated a broader health delivery model of which that project is a component. So I wanted to sort of go, if I focus just on that one project, I'd miss talking about what seemed to be working, which is the broader revenue stream that allows us to sustain the vaccine program in the way we'd envision.
Yeah.
So we'll bring that, and you're right. I'll submit the broader concept, especially if my colleague is going to join me. I just sent him a note while we were talking.
Yeah, Amar, I think that's perfect, and I think that's kind of a lesson that I think a lot of projects can learn from. And you guys are a few years out of the IWG program, and for some of the other projects that are have either just finished or in their final year, I think to just think about ways that you can incorporate the work that you've been doing into something larger that has more potential for growth and sustainability. I think there's a lot to learn from that, and so it definitely makes sense to focus on the larger project.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for bringing that up, Amir. So to wrap up, we just wanted to cover, what we expect over the next couple weeks before the workshop itself. So what we'll plan to do is to send, some high-level questions out to everyone who we're expecting to join the workshop. Really, some of the things we'd like you to think through for each of the workshop sessions. So just so you get a chance to prep and have given some thought to some of the core issues that we plan to discuss. And we'd love for you to take the chance to also discuss those with your team. If there are, other additional insights that they can provide. We understand, you may only know, but if we can give a holistic view from the whole team, from that representative, I think that would be ideal. And in addition to that, it'd be great if you could spend some time with each project, really assembling any relevant documentation. In what you're able to bring with you, whether that's assessments of customers in your markets, any historical financials, or key costs and revenue drivers, any strategic plans or organizational strategy that you already have in place. Of course, we don't want to replicate the wheel here. We don't want to do anything that you've already covered, and we really want to meet you where you are and then build from there. So we'd love for you to, if you're willing to share some of those things with our team beforehand, please feel free to email me directly. I either respond to any of my emails, or I'm happy to disperse my email again. That'd be helpful for our team to get a chance to review any documentation that you have that will allow us to provide better feedback and have more constructive conversations. But we'd love for you to spend some time really digging into some of these pieces before the workshop. Especially, if you need to talk to the CFO or whoever is in charge of your finances, as we think about doing a session on some of the key costs and revenue drivers, we understand not everyone is spending time in the numbers. So if you're coming and that's not your area of expertise, we'd strongly encourage you to spend some time talking with the person on your team who does have some insights into that. And then we'll open it up again if there's any questions or any additional thoughts or anything else we should take into account as we move towards the workshop on the 24th.
Maybe I could just add, I've already been to several of these IWG workshops, and I've always found them to be very, very both interesting and useful. But I think this is the first time that I've actually been on a pre-meeting sort of framing like this one, and this is really very helpful to me in terms of my expectations and even sort of planning. And I might already have changed my plan by potentially bring a second person from our team in. But I think this is an incredibly useful exercise. It's not easy to get people to come online like this, before a 4-day workshop. So again, thanks for the effort and some of the, I think this is really another way for us to learn that you can actually plan better workshops by hosting a pre-meeting like this. Thanks.
Yep, no, thanks for the feedback, Amr. We're trying to get better with age.
Oh,
Hey, Jasmine,
Yes,
go
please
ahead.
go ahead.
yes. So, Jasmine from Village Mahal. It's good that there is a talk about the investors on day 3. And for us, I think Minister of Web is one of the big investors, but we are having problems trying to convince them to take on board our services. I just wanted to make sure that that will be considered. Actually, how can we approach Ministry of Web in these different countries? And what comes to my mind immediately is the issue of monitoring and evaluation, because they want to see data for them actually to take on board these services, because they don't want to take any risks. So I just wanted to make sure that that will be on cover also.
Zachariah, I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit, so I want to just repeat what I've heard to make sure that I got at least the essence of it. My understanding is that you were saying you were having challenges finding funding, and that funders were really looking to get accurate data, and you needed to have good monitoring and evaluation in place in order to do so. Is that correct, or did I mishear you?
And I think specific to the Ministry of Health as the key
Ministry of Health. Okay.
that they're trying to influence or partner with.
Okay. Yeah, that's certainly something that we can incorporate and really think about beforehand, and spend some time talking, especially in the one-on-one session with you. If that is a core issue that you're facing now, we can certainly gather kind of our experience dealing with government institutions on our team, and talk through what are some ways to meet the demands that the Ministry of Health may be looking for.
Yeah, and just to add, that's also something that here from the WHO angle, we're also trying to see if there's any way we can try to incorporate that angle. We're going to kind of finalize some discussions hopefully this week, and then get back to the broader team on any potential updates or inclusions that we could have related to Ministry of Health financing.
Okay. Thanks, and this is great, and I'd encourage everyone who's coming, if there are some of these core issues that you think you'd really love to talk through, please do send that to us in advance. That'll help us think through some of those, be ready to have a more constructive conversation during some of those one-on-one sessions. So please feel free to email me directly if you think there's some specific things you'd really love to spend some time talking about.
Yeah, I think this is great. I quite second Amir's thought. This is a great exercise, and it's given us a kind of a way and a more structured approach to look at the workshop and how we could make best for our respective programs. I have shared initially some thoughts with Francis and all to look at, various ways of sustainability and how we define sustainability for our respective projects, depending on the nature of the project that we are dealing with. Not essentially maybe going the financial sustainability way, but the social impact sustainability way. So that's also something that maybe we look at, gaining some insights.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. So we'll give some thought to that topic before our one-on-one session and reach out.
Yeah, thanks. I really look forward.
Great. All right. Well, in that case, thank you all for taking the time to discuss this today, and you know, glad to hear that it's been helpful and constructive. As I mentioned, please feel free to reach out via email at any point if you have further questions, or if there's additional documents you'd like to share with our team, or if there's specific topics that you think be useful for us to give some thought to before, so that we can, you know, help advise you in the best way during the workshop. Otherwise, we'll be in touch likely, you know, early to mid next week with some of those key questions that we'd like you to think about. And then please do take the time to talk with your team and make sure you've got a full picture that you can come to the workshop with. But we're excited to spend this time together and really think through how to grow these projects and really make an impact for the people that you're working for. And look forward to meeting all of you in person soon.
Wonderful. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Bye,
Rodney.
guys.
Thanks, everyone. See you. Yeah, see you in a few days.
Take
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks all.